Before epilepsy was understood to be a neurological condition, people believed it was caused by the moon or by phlegm in the brain. They condemned seizures as evidence of witchcraft or demonic possession, and killed or castrated sufferers to prevent them from passing tainted blood to a new generation. This means accepting that a man who shoots into a crowd has no more control over his fate than the victims who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. T means treating drunk drivers who barrel into pedestrians just like drivers.
Whether you're searching for the best retirement plan, thinking about future education expenses, or looking at estate planning strategies, seeking out a professional is usually the best way to reach your financial goals. But not all financial and investment experts are guaranteed to put your best interest first. Financial advisors have similar levels of expertise and generally offer the same services. But the advisors do not offer the same degree of guaranteed trustworthiness, education, experience, and unbiased advice as fiduciaries.
Home loan borrowing costs climbed again this week, pushing the average long-term U.S. mortgage rate to its highest level in nearly 23 years, another blow to prospective homebuyers facing an increasingly unaffordable housing market. High rates can add hundreds of dollars a month in costs for borrowers, limiting how much they can afford in a market already out of reach for many Americans. They also discourage homeowners who locked in rock-bottom rates 2 years ago from selling. The average rate on a 30-year mortgage is now more than double.
Real career advancement opportunities are tougher to get these days, and Census Bureau surveys have shown growing despair among teens and the Gen Z cohort, who worry about their future on an economic level. After all, more than a quarter of the job creation for September came from lower-wage occupations in the leisure and hospitality industry. Inflation continues to be a major source of concern for young adults, offsetting potentially good employment news. So retirement is going to be further off for you than it was for previous generations.
The study, published in the esteemed journal Cancer Discovery, reflects an ambitious collaboration of experts in the field, aiming to surmount the limitations of current cancer detection methods which often suffer from inadequate sensitivity and specificity, not to mention the exorbitant costs associated. The journey to this discovery wasn't straightforward. The research team embarked on what was initially conceptualized as a pilot investigation. The astonishing efficacy of the test surpassed their expectations, propelling them toward subsequent enhancements.
Researchers have observed significant periods of unrest in a region of California's eastern Sierra Nevada mountains characterized by swarms of earthquakes as well as the ground inflating and rising by almost half an inch per year during these periods. The activity is concerning because the area, called the Long Valley Caldera, sits atop a massive dormant supervolcano. The work was conducted in the laboratory of Zhongwen Zhan, professor of geophysics. The region is gearing up for another supervolcanic eruption, but the cooling process may release enough gas and liquid.
Anyscale is one of the most important artificial intelligence companies that you may have never heard of, though it's used by the biggest names in the business, including OpenAI, but text data is pretty small. Image data is bigger. Video data is even bigger. So these applications are going to become far more data intensive. Every time these innovations happen, the infrastructure challenges get harder. And they're going to keep getting harder. They demonstrated these multimodal capabilities. These models are still inefficient compared to what we'll be playing with in a few years.
Phase 1 trials are mainly intended to confirm the short-term safety of an experimental treatment, and the treatment did appear to be generally well tolerated. 2 patients did experience seizure, possibly linked to it. About 2/3 of patients had existing antibodies to the herpes virus, and in these patients, the researchers also found evidence that the treatment boosted the immune system's response to the cancer. Importantly, the median survival of these patients was around 14 months, compared to just under 8 months for those without previous exposure to herpes.
Scientists typically conduct imaging in band due to its non-ionizing nature and the high degree of transparency in nonpolar dielectrics. Time-domain spectroscopy is a non-destructive spectroscopic testing method with 3D imaging to examine the properties of samples using short pulses of electromagnetic radiation. The method provides fine resolution and a broadband spectral signature when compared with X-ray and ultrasonic techniques that are suitable to inspect layered structures such as cultural artifacts, pharmaceutical drugs, and composite structures.
Non-invasive inspection of layered structures is challenging for time-resolved imaging methods, where the resolution and contrast can be compromised by prominent sinal reflections and dispersions. To accomplish this, they studied the local symmetrical characteristics of reflected pulses to determine the location enhanced the image contrast to evidence its superior performance. Colleagues to accurately reconstitute the structure and high-contrast imaging at ultra-low signal-to-noise ratios, to inspect the internal architecture of cultural artifacts, coatings, and composites.